at 1600. Stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Christine.
Here.
David. Here. Steve.
Here.
Myself. Jason did report in that due to work, he couldn't make it tonight, so I motion that we approve his absence as excused. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Are there any additions or deletions to tonight's agenda?
I was wondering if we could move 6 to 3 so that it becomes before the employee handbook. Because it might change what is written in the employee handbook.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I can see that. I don't have an issue with it. Does anybody have any? So, what is the next one? Okay, so we'll make 3 will become 5 then. You do this just to confuse me.
Sorry.
Okay. I don't have an issue, so anybody else have any additions, deletions? No. Okay, we'll move on. Anybody having or knowing of any conflict of interest pertaining to any business that may take place at tonight's meeting, please notify now. Correspondence.
None from staff.
Okay, public comment. It's the public's chance to speak. Depending on how many people would like to speak, in some cases we may restrict your time to 3 minutes per person. Anybody have anything on their mind? Okay. And we'll move on. Guest or presentations?
And none are scheduled.
Oh, yeah. Okay. And consent agenda. The regular board meeting minutes from April 12th, 2023. Anybody have any
Yeah.
deletions, additions,
I have a correction.
corrections?
I'm with more of an addition for... Now, where was it? Okay, it's under the financial report. Voice votes 4-1. But last time we had a split vote, we specified which director voted which way. So if we could do that again.
So I asked about a roll call vote, and then there was not a decision to do that. So normally, so if we do a roll call vote, then we'll
Say who.
poll by
it
who
is.
and yes or no, yes or no.
Okay, so you don't say who it is if you...
Well, that's what, and we can go and figure out for sure, but that's what a roll call vote typically is then. Individual by individual, then recording their exact vote and then recording it as the roll call vote.
Got it.
So, yeah, that, and I asked just if we wanted, it didn't come across that yes, that and then we didn't do that by practice. So whether that is more how we've been doing it or whether that follows more traditionally along with the Robert's Rules of Order or that type of thing. But that's that's when we do the roll call, then we're polling each individual.
So, but in June, the June minutes, when Petta and I voted differently than the other two, it was specified.
Okay.
And that was all in favor, say aye.
Maybe so. Okay. Yeah. And so I'm happy to record it either way or make whatever corrections the board wants to do. But.
It may not have been specified, but to the best of my memory, it was a roll call
Okay.
because of the division.
Okay.
Is how it can. But yeah, anytime a motion is made, anybody can ask for a roll call rather than a consensus.
Or a voice vote. Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. Voice vote, that's what it says. Voice
Yeah.
vote
Yeah.
Voice vote. Yeah.
is the
Yeah.
all in favor. Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And or carries or doesn't carry, whatever would be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's it. That's all I have.
Okay.
I make a motion we approve the consent agenda
As presented,
as presented.
I'll second that motion. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Chief's report.
Alrighty. Let me hit on a few things for you. So last week on the second here, but we had the auditors from Haney, a couple of the auditor team, and then staff from JVG in doing some of the field work for the 2022 financial audit. With the move to bill.com, we've been able to share a lot of the information that they're randomly pulling already through that. So that got us a ways through, but they did work on some of the on-site things. They're planning to potentially have one more on-site day, maybe at end of this month or early June, with the plan to have the draft of the audit to us at the June 21st meeting. And then it's end of July that the requirement for it to be completed and filed, so that would allow for the July meeting to be adopted. If it's not going to be done by the end of July, then we'd have to file for an extension. So that's kind of the timing plan on that. So we're working through there. We've had some discussions between other local file chiefs, the finance side of that, just trying to track the state, the governor, and the legislature's work on pushing forward another initiative for property tax control measures. So there's going to be something that most likely will come through for the November ballot. But that's on top of SB 291, 293 that passed last year, and then or 2 years ago, and then SB 22, 238 that passed last year. So that 238 is already going into effect for the 2023 property tax assessments and then collections. So the assessment that they'll do, that they'll collect off that. So they lowered the residential assessment rate a little bit in that. The other part that has is it's a 2-year thing, so 23 and 24. The Senate Bill 238, the goal is to reduce the property taxes by $700 million, and then the second year they'll determine how much the residential assessment rate adjustment would be based off of however much the savings are on the first year. The catch is, depending on the county that you're in, depending on the population, and then depending on the assessment rate change, the true assessed value change, we may be, where we are in Larimer County, and because we're a fire district, we may be made whole to 100% or potentially 90%, depending on what that assessment rate is for us. The newer measures, what they're discussing is making caps to special districts that are tied into the inflation rate, but having some other parameters where the state will cap it at that, but then allowing the districts to go to the taxpayers to ask for the change to be able to allow that back. So reducing the rate, but then putting it on to the districts to go back to their taxpayers to ask to have the money back, kind of a thing. So we'll know more as it goes through, and it actually takes form and what it looks like. But if we remember last year, there was another initiative that was moved forward that didn't pass. There was a couple competing initiatives. We'll just kind of keep an eye on those. Those drive through with what us as a special district, what we have as it relates to the mill levy and the residential assessment rate tie into that. So as we get a little more, we'll give you some updates as that comes along. So one of the projects that's been on my plate that we're trying to get done is some of the emergency evacuation related to just our GIS mapping, and the county-wide they've been using a program through LEDA 911 or Everbridge to do emergency alert notifications and evacuations through their program. So I had a couple meetings with LEDA. Last week I sat down with one of their GIS guys and we worked to digitize our whole response area map that ties into our same map grids that we use. So the current map grids we use, and what we did is we kind of followed the PFA line that our map grids are kind of continue on from their map grids and what we get in dispatch. So the idea is that once it's been all done and digitized, then we'll have evacuation polygons that are designated as the same as our map grids. And what that allows is when we go to do an emergency alert for evacuations, we just tell them the polygons or the map grids, the quadrants that we want evacuated. They can just enter those in, and then it creates the evacuation notice much more quickly than when we're trying to figure out we want to go a mile or 2 miles south or 3 miles to the east. One of the discussions we had when we met with the town staff a couple times, and then we had the emergency preparedness meeting with the town, was one of the other things that we know that varies within our district that's town specific is the flood and floodplain. So we've been working on getting the map data for that, so that once we get it, we can overlay that the flood map planes over and use the same polygons. We won't have to create something different, but we'll have the flood overlay on the same map so that we know that if we're saying there's a potential for a flood event and we think the 4-hour high water mark is going to be here, we can just pick those same polygons and issue those evacuation notices from there. So the LEDA 911 group's been helpful with that, getting that done. And once they're all done, they're going to. The nice part is we won't have to recreate different polygons because we're kind of a gridded area. So some of the areas like Estes Valley, Loveland, and Loveland Rural, they have different challenges that don't work off a great grid system because of ingress and egress and some of the mountain roads and some of the things like that. So we're hopeful within the next couple of weeks that we'll have the full digitized version with that we can see. And then they're going to make maps for us for our digital maps and our more full-size maps for the station. So they'll do all that for us. We have our wildfire preparedness open house this Saturday, May 13th, over at Station 17 from 10 to 12. Besides us and our staff, we'll have LEDA 911, which will help with some of the NOCO alert emergency evacuation signups and some information on that. And then we'll have Larimer County Office of Emergency Management with some of the emergency preparedness information. And then we'll have the Larimer County Sheriff's Office, their emergency services folks out there as well. Today was the second session that we started delivering our all hazards active threat active shooter training that's co-training with Larimer County Sheriff's Office. We've did 2 of our shifts. So make-up day, we'll have the 3rd shift on the next week. But through the equipment that we got donated from PFA, and then we were able to purchase the ballistic plates. We're working on getting the rest of the equipment to kind of kit stuff out so that we'll be able to at least start off with 8 full kits. And then there's a full-scale exercises that we'll be working with us, Larimer County Sheriffs, and then the other response partners at the end of June and July. So we'll kind of getting everything ready in place to be able to do that through there. We've been able to work out an agreement with PFA's shop to do our annual pump testing again for our frontline apparatus. So had some dates in the books. They had a cancellation today, so we hurried and got one done down there today, and we'll get the other one done off their schedule from there. We also were able to work out an agreement. They have a Scott technician that is at PFA 2 days a week. So we were able to work out an agreement with them to be able to do the hydro testing, flow testing for our regulators and PACs. And so we've got a schedule that we're going to work through with them to get those in through and get those flow tested, and they can do some of the repairs for us on those that we were doing otherwise through an outside vendor, another outside vendor that was a little bit farther away, so it's just the logistics of that. So they do that for with having a Scott Tech on site. They don't work for PFA, but they have a facility where they can do that work. So we just need to kind of co-schedule the time and work through that. So, and then we've been working with Lieutenant Martin, who was kind of the lead before, was working with CSU, their health assessment program to get our core fitness testing done. We have a program through the Heart Trust that will fund that portion of that testing for us. So in fact, we didn't get the other grant that we applied for. That's kind of our alternative to get that part done through that. So he's just working through with Tiffany over at CSU to get us kind of figure out the schedule, figure out a rotation we can get folks through, and schedule to be able to get that in and get our folks through that. So that will be forthcoming for us. So, and that's all I have from there. I got an agenda item for catching up on the where we're at with steps for the post-election stuff, and I'll catch that later when we talk about that. So
We have 3 engines at hydro test, right?
well, we have
Main
two
engines?
for sure, and then we have the reserve engine. We got hydro tested when we got it,
Right.
and then just depend for the pump test,
Okay.
for the pump test on that. So we're just working through. We'll see as we talk about it. We haven't just purposely we haven't spent much money going into this part of the year on our vehicle maintenance, but we have stuff that's been holding off on to do, so we're starting to do catch up on. So we'll prioritize for sure what we do. We want to make sure we do our 2 frontline Type 1 engines.
Sure.
The other smaller ones we don't do pump testing
Right.
on.
So I thought. So
And
when,
then-
when is that flow testing done? I used to know, but
So it's typically it's annually, so
Okay.
you do it on an annual basis, and so not sure exactly when we did the last one, but that's what we're doing, trying to get back on schedule. Their shop, they did a full big remodel from their shop there. They moved them over to Station 8 for a while. They were just kind of behind the curve on that, but they're all set back up on that. We had worked through trying to get an agreement in place, and they've more set it up now like an enterprise shop. So they're doing that. They're doing the work for Windsor Severance Fire and a couple others, just on this is the rates and this is the price to do it.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
so they brought in some other equipment. We just went by the day. We looked at, you can do alignments, okay, but got all new alignment equipment, but the price is the same as any other fleet shop.
So handy. I mean,
Yeah,
to be able to,
and it's just hard. It's hard to find other places that do that kind of work. Stuff far away. Their option is out east or down south to
Right.
like where Mountain View. Mountain View did an enterprise shop, big add-on down there too. So we'll get those through there, and then we're looking at some of the other things, tires and brakes, and some stuff and annual services of fluids and those kind of things that need to get done, and so we're lining up into that time to get those done.
What's the status on the Station 17 repairs that you're...
So there was some did some of the minor repairs. So we had a water leak, so we got plumbing piece fixed on that. There was an outside pipe break on that. They're working on drywall patch and clean that up. They had a leak previous leak that was in the ceiling in the workout area there. Did cut the drywall back, clean that out. They did bleach solutions for multiple days to kill that, and then covered it with the Kills primer, and then painted that up. And they've done a drywall patch on that, so we're just working on finishing the last bit of the cleanup of the drywall patch and do that. So we the last thing that we have is waiting to get a roofer out to get some quotes on patchwork on pieces of the sections of the roof. So that's over the Bay Area there. So knowing that the cost of doing a whole roof is going to be over the top, but
And then I saw what looked like a controlled burn on Friday, but then you guys were there.
that was
It
so
looked like a controlled burn.
yeah, for a few minutes it was someone burning their ditch, but it wasn't. Yeah, which depending on in the ag world, water conveyance and ditch burns are allowed. But yeah, they ended up burning up 60 of their bales of hay. So
Ooh, okay.
so yeah, Cruise Rower She came in the night, pretty much spent all night out there, part of the day the next day, and then back again later in that day. And then the next night, other earlier in the day ditch burn that didn't get put all the way out that started up a fire in the night. So
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Usually the neighbor burns your hay. At least it was him. So,
yeah,
But it's so cheap.
yeah. Yeah.
yep.
And then I was also wondering if we can get some kind of stats with your chief report. I was looking at PFA's chief report, and it's like LCSO's report with stats on how many calls they went to and what type of calls they were, response times. I'm also interested in knowing employee staffing at each station and how that's looking on a month-to-month basis.
Sure, we could put together a list of stuff that we'd like
Do you
to
have
see.
like a system that it'll be easy for you to print out a report, or I don't want to
Yeah.
cause you a lot of work.
Well, I think if we can talk about what we have, then we can look at. We have some of that, but most of it is data mining and then putting it together. So there's, depending on some of it, through our emergency reporting system, which is where our calls come in.
Yeah.
We can get parts of that, so just raw like call volume, that kind of thing. But then to break down response times and things, so that's a little bit of other stuff we'd have to kind of pull from that. Staffing comes from another place, so
Okay.
so it'd be a bit of. I'm not saying a lot. It'd just be a matter of figuring out what it is that we want to see in that, and then working through the how to do it, and then what time it would take to kind of put that in place. So obviously, without the amount of staff that we used to have, and some of that stuff that come out of there, that's.
Yeah, we
But
have
that's
a
all.
person that was there
But that's
all
all.
the
That's all.
Oh, yeah. Only job with stats? Oh.
But it's
Okay.
most part.
but it's all valuable information. All that information that is needed for decision making. I think when we do
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. So
Yeah, I think a stats is needed. So,
Yeah.
and my last question is just what's the status of, what they call them, admin, the two positions that you're looking to hire, what's the
yeah.
status?
So we still have one individual that's been on injury leave. So he's still working on a 40-hour work week, and so we held off on hiring an admin position because we're basically paying that person
Got it.
their salary, but not out on the line with that. So it's kind of a deferral of salary that otherwise would be going to the line, and then paying overtime at times to backfill on that. So we held off on that, and then we did a recruitment process for the captain's position that closed. And then we're just evaluating right now. With we know that there's people that have been testing in other areas, and there's lateral recruitments going on across over there. So, kind of evaluating the lists that we have in place, and if we have to going to do regular open recruitment. So,
When you
always
say
saying-
it closed, what does that mean? The position closed?
the recruitment period. So that was posted to a certain
And
date through
and-
5:00 on Monday. The recruitment period closed on that. So,
Recruitment.
yeah.
Okay.
So we're now just kind of evaluating what's going to potentially come forth with if people that are in processes that have shared with me that they've had conditional offers. If those offers go through, then we'll be looking at having to potentially move staff around or recruit people in or do hiring processes. So,
Okay.
yeah.
All right,
Kind of
thank you.
prioritizing making sure we're prioritizing that side of the door.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Any other questions for the chief? And we'll move on. When is Gabe going to be?
I'm going to call. I
Okay.
just need it. So
Okay, so
let me
just
call him
hang
in.
for a minute and we'll
Call
start
him in.
our financial report.
Hey, Gabe. Good afternoon. I got you on speakerphone with the board here.
All right, great. Can everybody hear me okay?
Sure can.
All right, perfect. Well, good afternoon, Mr. President, members of the board. Chief already kind of updated everybody on where we're at in the audit process, so I'll go ahead and save you from hearing about the audit again. Looking at the monthly financial report for April, and I'm kind of following along on page 5 if you want to look at that on the report. You'll see our total revenue for the month of April was at $213,470. We were $11,735 under budget. Property tax collection was the main driver of that. We're about $39,000 under what we projected for the month of April. When you get to year to date, you'll see we actually have a narrower gap But non-levy revenue was strong. We brought in $33,577, which was actually over budget by $28,000, and some impact fees that we collected, $32,000 in impact fees this past month is really what helped kind of drive that from the town of Wellington. As far as expenses go, we're at $194,660 in total expenses for the month of April. That is under budget overall by $21,580. And you can see we're actually under budget across all of our major categories. There were a few variances. Personnel regular wages actually came right in line with budget, but overtime was actually over by $4,000. Because there's overtime, though, we had some savings on benefit costs, which prevented us from ultimately going over budget in personnel. We did have an overage in PPE. We spent $1,998, which was over by about $1,100. And that was for some ballistic steel purchases for ballistic vests. And then the only other comment or overage I wanted to just bring up to the board was on our professional fees. That was at $2,457 for the month, or $1,800 over. And really what was driving that was kind of the prepayment on our HR services through Employers Council. As far as year-to-date goes, total revenues at $1,440,278, which puts us over budget by $26,981. As I mentioned, we're only about $13,000 off on our property tax collection, so a small variance, but not much to be concerned about with 1.3 in revenue. We do anticipate that collection catching up throughout the year. On the expenses, we're at $795,453, or under budget by $111,959. The only other thing I wanted to point out, I know Chief sent out kind of an updated packet earlier this week. Director Gator, which was reviewing the reports, noticed that our year-to-date numbers increased more than what was in the April expenses. That was related to our credit card. Our credit card kind of cuts off on the 26th of the month. But we do try to enter the transactions based on the date they occurred. This being a higher month, I think it kind of grabbed her attention. So it was a great catch, and I appreciate that, Director Gator. What we're going to do to, ensure that we avoid that in the future is work with the chief on getting, live access to either the credit card or at least the receipts as charges occur, so we can make sure all of that is recorded at the same time. We don't have to try to push it forward to the next month or worry about that kind of significant variance from one month to the next. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions the board has.
Christine, anything?
I just have one question for Chief, and it's just the PPE, just with the turnover of employees. We're at, I don't know, I didn't write it down, but 75%, I think, of our budget for PPE. And if we're going to lose more and we have to replace their PPE, are we going to go over budget, do you think?
There's a chance. So one of the things low to too is we had, and we'll have to make just a budgetary note to that, but we had a $2,000 revenue that came in that's offsetting the $1,800 purchase that we did on the ballistic plates. So that partly offset, but it's still going to show that way. So whether or not we have to adjust the budget as a whole at the end, or whether that line item falls that way. Second thing on PPE, really the kind of the two pieces of investment that we look at from PPE if we have turnover of folks really is the bunker gear. We've been in a pretty good place where most of the gear that we have and the inventory that we have, that big cost we haven't had to incur as we've had people change. Where we end up sometimes the cost is a bit expensive is things that are a lot more specific to their fit, which would be like boots and that kind of thing. So sometimes we're having to, we lose somebody, we have gear, but then they can't get into the same boots, so we have to buy new boots and that thing. So we've got to kind of watch into that part of it. So
some of that's reusable, you're saying?
Yes. So the other part where we might see a variation a bit would be on uniforms. So that's another thing.
But that's a different line item.
It's a different line item.
Okay.
Yeah. But those are two items that potentially can fall into that. So,
okay.
and it's just something we'll kind of continue to watch over there. And then as we, again, as a line item, we may end up with a line item that's over, and that's what we continue to watch and see if there's another line item that we're going to offset it by just making sure that we stay under on those other line items. So.
Okay. And then I have a question for Gabe about what Chief was just talking about. If we want to change the budget but not the total amount, does that need a public hearing just to, like Chief said, to change the PPE and take it from another?
So, good question, Director Gator. Yes, so any amendment to the budget essentially requires us to go back through the normal process of a budget adoption. I will say, though, the legal level of control on the budget is at the fund level, meaning the board has, essentially approved the budget at the total fund level. So if Chief is essentially going to use savings from other categories to fund expenditures in others, that can be done without any sort of formal budget amendment. We will, though, obviously, if ultimately it causes us to go over in totality, need to come back for a formal amendment.
Which, in case like revenue might, or if we've had some excess revenue that we hadn't planned for in some areas, if that does it, and we have associated expenditures that we said, we got this extra revenue and this is what we're going to spend it on, so that we tie them to something. That's what we'll just have to continue to watch that at the fund level. And I think as we get into, I think the other part that I kind of alluded to in the beginning, but because of just the way that we get our receivables, we purposefully hold off on doing spending on certain things until we know that we've got the revenue to be able to do that, so that we're pushing that forward. So this is kind of now, as some things that we've had in the wings, vehicle maintenance, some of our other equipment maintenance, some of those kind of things. Now that we have, we got our first half of our second big tax bump today, so $479 or $499 or something like that today, and the other half will come next month, and then we'll kind of have crested the hill on the vast majority of our revenue. So we'll have to kind of parse out what we do and kind of plan for it that way, and still leave some for that contingency, emergency, something breaks down type of thing. But our goal really being that as we're watching through and watching all of our cash on hand, is that we've got a mark somewhere in that $600,000 range that we should be seeing on hand at the end of the year, to know that we're going to be able to make the January, February, early March salaries, payroll, benefits, and all those other expenditures. So we're, as we get into August, August is when we'll have a lot better idea of kind of what the first look of the assessor's estimate is, but it'll still kind of leave that hanging asterisk or hanging question mark about what's going to happen with the November ballot stuff. So we'll kind of have our first look, and as everybody that's watched any of the news around here of Larimer County, everybody's got their first look at their property taxes, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of protests going through, and whatever that looks like, we'll see what that does for us in the end. We typically see very little on the non-assessment year, and we get the bigger bump on the assessment year that sort of helps to average that out. So this is the year where we would have normally been anticipating a bigger bump to make up for the board members. We basically got no tax raise this year. So it was effectively the same amount of revenue this year as it was last. So typically we would see a 20% bump or something to that effect, 12 to 20% bump. But we would, kind of the way things look, is anticipate probably not seeing that much, but we'll have to see where everything plays out.
I'll make a motion to accept the monthly financial report for May and the revised for April, the monthly financial report for April and the revised report for March.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
David seconds. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you. I don't
Gabe.
think, Gabe, I don't see anything else I don't think there would be anything else that we'd have on the agenda for you guys. I don't think. No. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll sit
Appreciate
on my
it.
phone in case anything comes up, Chief.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye, thank you.
Okay. So next up, we have district business number 2, the discussion item, update on board election process.
So just wanted to provide the board a quick update. So on Monday, I shared through email to the board, but the Canvas board did meet and certify the election results. That's now been uploaded and filed to DOLA and filed with the clerk recorder. The next step is for the elected candidates to do their oath of office or affirmations. So the forms have connected to both of them, sent the forms out for that, so they'll be able to complete that. When those come back, those still need to get attached with the bond cover and then submitted. And then so everything's moving forward on track for June 21st. Proceeding from that, there's just a timeline for that stuff to get done and submitted. And so we've moved through there. We did get the final invoice from our DEO. I think we've kind of collected almost everything. We should have everything done. I think right now we budgeted $14,000. We're looking at somewhere around 10 to 11. So probably closer to 11 with some of the final little associated costs we're looking at that. But we should have the final numbers that should all be included in when we finish this month. For the next month, we should know where we're at from there. So hopefully we'll end up with a bit of remaining under budget on that. So just appreciate the staff, some of the other staff that help run around and pick up things and bring stuff back and do that, so that we were taking care of some of those costs rather than the other stuff. So everything else is looks like it's on track. I don't see any issues with doing that for June, for moving the new members in place. And that's all I have for that, unless you've got any questions from there.
Okay. So next up, as per Christine's request, will be item 5, discussion item, town of Wellington. No. Where did I get?
It would be number 6 is the one.
You said 5.
No, she said 6.
Did you?
Yeah. I know. You just made your note probably.
Yeah, I just crossed off the wrong one. Okay, item 6, which is adding an agenda item to the regular board meeting. Agenda
I know,
to
so
allow the
that's fine.
staff to address the board with concerns. Okay. So, Christine, you have a personal interest in this?
Steve and I chatted and just talking about having the firefighters be able to have something in the agenda in the process where they can share their concerns.
Well, would that be open? I mean, when they have the open comment, I mean, anybody can public comment, but
That is for citizens,
well, I would think it'd be for anybody.
for anyone.
You could tie it in with that, but
Yeah. You could either tie it in, there with public comment, or do 2 others. That's the way we used to do it. Once the board all were given a chance to have another at the end of the meeting, then it went by rank. And then I usually threw it out to the staff. But however you think it would work best. All it takes is a motion to add it to the agenda.
What are you thinking?
I'm not thinking it, so I'll let you carry that.
Okay. I just make a motion to add a point in the agenda for the union president to present each meeting, if necessary, if they want to, any concerns that they want to bring to the board's attention.
one thing I would add, I would think, that if it was something we needed to research or think about, I mean, it'd be kind of nice to know if it was on the if they could turn it into the agenda ahead of time.
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, you could say, well, I know about this, and I don't know anything about that. Give you a little time to research it, just like we get this agenda. If it was something,
So make an amendment, adding put something in the packet?
Well, yeah, it could be, I guess they could go through Mike if they had something, a specific question, but most of that, it would depend on what kind of question it was, I guess, because most of the operations would go through Mike, they wouldn't come through the board. That's what Mike's job is, but if there was a specific question that would be addressed by the board, I guess that would be fine with me, but you know what I'm saying? I think it'd be nice to know what the question would be ahead of time.
Well, I think my advice would be to handle it the same way that we have kind of updated everything with handling public comment.
Right.
That if it is a specific question or that,
Well, you could always table it too if you had to.
that the board is
You
then
could research
given
it. Yeah.
so long a time to, depending on the question or the issue, to give a formal response to it. But for the most part, if that's what you're wanting, I would just add a line or a segment to the agenda that is specifically for employee.
And maybe if I could share with the board, just for some thought, the board bylaws lay out the meeting order and then the agenda of the meeting. So
change that.
maybe a place to start would be whether it's through this discussion tonight and think about how that would live or where that would live in the agenda, and then maybe the intent, kind of lay out a little bit of intent, and then come to a consensus agreement or an agreement that's where that would live, and then that way it would be really clear as far as what the agenda looks like, and then those that whoever that would be, that they know where their part comes in the agenda, that kind of thing. So.
Yeah, so I was thinking of putting the bylaws on the June meeting so that the new board members, one, can read it and know what our bylaws are, and two, as a new board, discuss making those changes like the third Wednesday of the month meetings for JBG to give us, have more time to give us reports, things like that, to make necessary changes. So why don't we just do that, and then we could talk about adding the employees to the agenda since it's changing the bylaws. Let's just put the bylaws on the June meeting.
Okay, as a discussion item like we did before, a place to review and discuss. Yeah.
First, I need for you to withdraw
If you
your
want.
motion.
I never got a second, so it died.
Yeah, right.
I know, kind of interrupted that part of it, but yeah, if there's no second, it would die.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think for tonight, just a side note, anything that's going to be long-standing, I think it'd be better to table till June's meeting. Okay.
So, direction of the board is for the June meeting, we will add the board bylaws
Discussion, yeah. Perfect.
for discussion.
Perfect.
Okay. So then, in turn, I will motion that, because we need to,
This was just a discussion item on the agenda. This one, item number 6 was adjusted as number 3 was a.
okay. So then we need the motion to table that till next month.
Well, it's just a discussion, so there's not an action. So I don't think, at least I don't think from a proper point, you don't have to table anything because it was just a discussion item.
Okay. Yeah, we're good.
There was no, it
Okay.
wasn't set for action.
Right. Yeah, okay. So now we're at,
Employee handbook.
well, that's what I was referring
Yeah.
to.
And so this again is a discussion with possible action. So the what I've presented to the board in the packet is we've looked at it a few times with some amendments that were suggestions from Employers Council through their review, some formatting changes. There was also one of the key items that we were looking at getting into captured into this was the change from the PTO and holiday to an accrual based. And as I shared with the board the last time, what the challenge that we have for right now is that because we do it as a dump base, those have already been given all their hours. The intent being that effective January 1st of 2024, we want this to be in an accrual-based system that allows us to, as we review things, potentially have different accrual rates based off of years of service and time that's based off of that. The way that we have it now, it's all is one and one is all, and it's all dumped at the beginning of the year, not in an accrual-based system. But the proper time to do that would be in advance of, so that our payroll system, the accrual system, started after we've already kind of dumped everybody's hours. So that's a key piece that as we kind of went back and forth, we were trying to figure out how to write both of those things the way that it currently is, and then as of January 1st type of thing. So that's one of the elements that's left in there. So
And I apologize, I wasn't taking into consideration that you had added the word possible to that.
So it's open to the board to discuss, review, take action, opt to not take action now. It's the board's decision on that.
Yeah, I was just looking at it from the standpoint that we had planned on doing the approval tonight, but good way to.
Well, I think we can. So
Correct.
If you look at section 5B4, is that right?
Of the handbook?
Yeah. Is that right? It's PTO leave.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, it is 4. So,
And sorry about, for some reason the page numbers were in here. The pages were in here and then they didn't.
Sorry.
I don't know how that happened.
It's easier if we divide it.
yes, sorry about that.
That's all right.
So if, I'll make a motion to strike out the words, 48 hours will be available on January 1st of each calendar year, and replace it with accrued at 1.846 hours per pay period starting January 1st, 2024, and strike out 96 hours will be available on January 1st of each calendar year, and replace it with accrued at 3.96 hours per pay period starting January 1st, 2024. So then it's already in there, starting just like we wanted. Here's the wording, and I'll
Okay.
let you guys see my wording.
Straightforward.
I don't know where it is.
Okay.
There's the wording there.
And how about current employees that come in now?
They wouldn't start.
So they will get no hours. And I don't know if that's. I think that it's just. I think that's one of the things that in the bigger language piece of that
Okay.
that we talked about with Employers Council and some of the back and forth on that. We're looking to do that and clean that whole part up. That makes it clear. And I think we could do it in practice the same way that we are now for those that come in. We're trying to prorate hours for those, and so I think that's probably just that, making sure that we're clear on that's how we're going to do that for those that come in.
So you would just have to include the words for new employees.
I think,
Starting today's date, May 10th. Something like that. What would you suggest?
I think that's. We could work up some language like that, and well, do we have? So is this the language that's being suggested? So that I would put it into that, or is there a change that you want me to bring back for approval? I guess is what we're looking at in June.
Oh, let's just get it done now. Let's decide on what to do.
Okay. So
on just that section is what you're proposing?
And also the holiday as well. That's also on there. Oh, here. There we go. Holiday and PTO starting January 1st, but he makes a good point about the ones that are hired on. Maybe they just start accruing since they didn't get the dump on January 1st.
No, well, the only problem with our payroll is not set, it's set up for not set up for accrual on some and not for others. So we can. That's what we were trying to get it set. So when we switch over, that everybody's on accrual. I guess we could try to figure out if our payroll system can do some on accrual and some not.
I know QuickBooks can,
Yeah.
so I'm sure Paylocity is more sophisticated.
Yeah. Okay.
So add all current full-time, so just add all current before, and they start next year. And then add a line for new employees after. Pick a date. Today's date. We'll start accruing.
Oh, I see. The 48 one would be the 1.46.
Is everybody clear on what?
There's red.
Yes, but what the proposed changes are.
Do you need to confer with our payroll department and see if they can do that, you think, or? I hate to-
No, I know for sure we can do all, and
Right.
I think it's just a matter
Okay.
of if we set up new people
Okay.
to make sure that if everybody just goes that way, we do the prorated dump for anybody that's new that comes in, or the other 40-hour dump that would happen after July 1st. We could still do it that way. And here.
We could do 40 hours will be available on January 1st of each calendar year for current employees and immediately for new employees hired after May 10th, 2023.
Yeah.
Well, they won't get 48. They get a prorated amount, whatever the prorated 48 for the
And prorated.
26 pay periods. Yeah.
And prorated.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Accrued at. Accrued at 1.846 hours per pay period, starting. So we wouldn't have to specify how many hours they would get in total because they're accruing 1.846 every pay period.
When they When they start, yes, from when they start.
Right, so the wording doesn't need to change. Accrued at 1.846 hours per pay period, starting January 1st, 2024, for current employees and immediately for new employees hired after. The new wording I put in there starts with accrued, and so it doesn't specify the total number of hours they will receive, just that they're
Yeah,
the accrued per pay period.
right.
You got it clear? You understand what your motion is going to be?
Sure.
Okay.
You want me to
Yeah, that way we can hear it recorded, and I
Sure.
can try to do it,
And let's,
to type it up into something, because if we're adopting it without it being seen written, then it's going to be...
Yeah, that's.
It's going to
I
be...
wrote it. For
And
you.
I-
Right, but I think we've maybe came up with a few little
Right.
edits.
So-
that,
I would do it as two separate motions.
Okay.
Same motion, but two separate ones,
Sure.
essentially.
Okay, I make a motion to strike out the words.
Now, you start with the section and all that.
Thank you.
Okay.
I make a motion in section 5B4, PTO leave, to cross out the words 48 hours will be available on January 1st of each calendar year, and replace with accrued at 1.846 hours per pay period starting January 1st, 2024 for current employees and immediately for new employees hired after May 10th, 2023.
And refer to attachments. That's what I do.
What does that mean?
That you're going to get this
refer
all
to
totally put in it, typed out or
as
whatever.
written.
And then you just attach it to the packet and as a reference material.
Okay.
Okay.
My wording, if you want to.
Okay.
Yep.
Do we have a second?
I will second.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And then my next motion is for the 96 hours. Sorry, steal it back.
That's okay.
I make a motion for section 5B4 PTO leave, striking out.
Pardon me. It's section 5B5, correct?
I have. Mine's
Force
4.
PTO. That's how you have it on here.
Well, but there, I think it's 5.
5B4?
It's still, I think it's still 5. Because you got to go backwards.
Okay.
Because the B, I think, is the page or so before.
Section
right?
5.
Yeah. 5.
B4.
B, 1, 2, 3, 5. Yes.
PTO.
5. B, 5. Yep. That's correct.
Okay.
Okay, I'll start again.
Continue.
I'll make a motion for section 5B4 PTO leave to strike out the words 96 hours will be available on January 1st of each calendar year and replace them with accrued at 3.96 hours per pay period starting January 1st, 2024 for current employees and immediately for new employees hired after May 10th, 2023.
Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. Which one are we doing?
The 96 and the
Okay,
3.96.
I was looking at the wrong and marking the wrong one. So I'm sorry. Okay, 5B4 for the 96-hour one. So this is actually, so this is going to be your first motion. That's your second motion. Okay.
And it would probably be nice for you to just do just like you did here, but with the corrections and turn it in for the record.
Oh, yeah,
I
I'm
think
giving this
she
to
did.
him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. she
Yep.
did that.
Everything I
If it
said
works
is
for you
right
guys, it
there.
works for me.
Yeah.
So I think we're just at a motion so far, right? Yeah. Okay.
Waiting to get it for you to catch up. We need a second. Do I have a second? I'll second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And then the holiday one. I'll have to add the wording for the current employees and any employee hired after July 1st. So what should I say, July 2nd? They don't get the dump if they're not here on July 1st, and then July 2nd they get accrued? I don't know, what do you... How do we do it now if they come in after July 1st?
We've prorated what remaining hours were there on a prorated basis.
So is it possible to just leave the wording and then just add that starting January 2024 it will change, but this wording is still in place so that you can prorate for this year? Maybe that would be the way to...
I think that. Yeah, I think we can work through that and see what we couldn't.
40 hours will be available. We can cross out each year and just say ending. We can say ending.
Can I make an observation?
Certainly.
You've only got 2 holidays in the first 6 months of the year. All the rest of the holidays come after Memorial Day. So if you prorate it 40 and 40, that's not...
That's a very good point.
Well, that's how the dump happened before, and I think it was
It's always been-
that was probably one of the bigger issues with the dump method. I think it was really just, I don't know the history behind it, but
Yeah,
a way to split that 80 into 2 halves, so that it wasn't all given in. Yeah, I think we could do the prorating as of January 1st. Have the language of that.
So we can say, leave it as is, add after each calendar year until December 31st, 2023. So the system stays in place.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can add the wording that starting full-time line employees, non-exempt, will receive 80 hours of holiday leave each year, accrued at 3.077 hours per pay period starting January 1st, 2024.
Mm-hmm.
That would suffice.
That makes more sense.
Okay.
Thank you, Sue.
Yeah. Yes, yeah. Okay. So I'm going to make a motion for section 5B5, holidays, to add to add to this sentence, 40 hours will be available on January 1st and July 1st of each calendar year until December 31st, 2023, and add the line, full-time line employees, non-exempt, will receive 80 hours of holiday leave each year, accrued at 3.077 hours per pay period starting January 1st, 2024.
And then you just have to remember.
That's all I
oh,
did.
sorry.
Yeah.
As the written sheet, so
Yeah.
the wording's in there, and then that's the only thing I added.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table. We need a second.
I'll second.
David Pearson seconds. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And-
Can I make an observation, please?
Please.
I think I kind of missed my window on the last motion. PTO is sick leave for our employees, from my understanding. Curiosity, if hiring new employees, they will start accruing when they start at that, I can't remember what that one was, like the 1 point some hours. That's the one that has the most likely chance of being used first, because of illnesses. And this world is sick and still technically in a pandemic. I think it's not very, it doesn't very advertising for recruitment as well to not have any form of dumped banked sick leave. And it also, I think, is kind of encouraging staff to come to work sick if they have no time to use. Because one sick day for us is 24 hours. That's a lot of pay periods to get 24 hours.
Got it.
So I'm just, I don't know if that's a concern or maybe something worth bringing up, that is it worth separating those two and having vacation leave and sick leave and then holiday instead of PTO being sick and loss in translation type thing?
Do we have that?
Or
Do we
if
have
they,
it?
if they
We
just
do.
get a dump of, here's at least a shift's worth of sick leave, that way we're not encouraging people to come to work sick and then getting further staff sick, and now people are burning time off because people are coming to work sick because they don't have time off and they don't want ramifications and stuff like that. I don't know if that's worth it.
So you like the dump as it is right now
Maybe just for one category.
for for the vacation?
Just being sick.
For the sick category, you like.
I know it's hurt this place in the past. You give them a dump, right? People just started, they get a job elsewhere, and then they're like, I'm going to burn that time, right?
Okay.
They didn't earn it. I think that's kind of something that we want to get away from encouraging, but I don't think we want people coming to work sick either. And it's going to be hard to use sick time if there is no time. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, we can, you can make note of the suggestion.
And you can talk about it next meeting or whatever. I just
Yeah.
wanted to throw that out there as a food for thought kind of thing. That's going to encourage people coming to work sick, and it's going to make other people sick and stuff like that type of thing.
So you're wanting to keep the dump, or do you want something different? You don't want the accrual.
I have no clue what the solution to it would be. I'm just throwing it out there for you guys to
Well,
think
we
about.
define
People might be coming to work sick.
Okay.
Maybe a dump of sick leave and then everything else is accrual.
Okay,
Got it.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
There's one more thing I wanted to add to the employee handbook is we don't have a whistleblower policy.
Okay.
And so I just copied the town's whistleblower policy. But basically, just if there's illegal things going on, and a whistleblower puts in a written notice about that, then they can't be retaliated against. And no, we just want to make sure that we protect them if they want to report something that's wrong going on.
Can they remain anonymous?
It does not specify. So it's on the paper that I gave you on the other side.
Oh.
Is the actual written policy. And it's just from the towns, and I just changed it to say chief and, you know, our terminology.
Okay, give us a minute to go through it.
I can make just maybe for point 2 that the handbook has typically gone through. So employer counsel, their legal service that's a service they provide to us from their legal to review the language that's in there, and that saves us from our legal. But we've usually, and that's kind of in the process of making sure that we've got some legal review. If there's any other comments that and just like I'll point out to the PTO section that was in the red line version that's come to the board multiple times, the PTO section and sick leave, and talking about some of those things that are it's kind of nebulous in here, and it is a bit confusing. Just as that point was brought up, our PTO is sick leave, I think, but it kind of the way that talks out there, it's intended for sick, but it can be used like vacation, right? So it crosses some lines, and those are some suggestions that have been come to continue to clean up and to continue to work on that. The biggest change in this was it had been a little bit of time, and there was big EEO changes that were embedded into this. That was kind of the first line of that whole section that got added in. And I think to your point of this, there's probably others that may have something like that, and it would be probably behoove us to make sure that what we're approving has had eyes on it, that it hits what it needs, though some of those questions are answered.
Yeah,
so
we can add stuff to it. I mean, obviously, it marks the legal requirement because the town uses this exact wording, so I know that is fine. But, like, yeah, if we want to add anonymous, I don't
Well,
I
yeah,
don't know.
I guess what I would recommend is that we go have the chief go and have Mountain States.
Or-
Just tell them we would like
or employers council,
Or, yeah.
Oh,
or somebody, yeah.
old school.
Okay.
But just
I'm happy to embed something in to bring back in a draft form that everyone can look at, or whatever the board's decision is.
because the real thing here is just, and I'm glad you brought it up, is that something we want to add to our policies and to the handbook, which I think it is, and have them give us.
Oh, the employers' council. Got it. Yeah. Yeah, so can we direct Chief to talk to employers' council and bring this back to us, a whistleblower policy?
And then what
I
I
want them to look into the anonymous thing.
Yeah,
That's allowed? I don't know
yeah.
if that's allowed.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
And then I take this policy, the town's policy, and compare them. And if there's anything that you want included out of this that's not coming through from the one we're getting, or you'd be getting, then chat with them and say, well, can we include this or can't we?
Either way, yeah.
You know.
Just as long as we have something in there to protect employees.
I guess it's more, I'm not asking for, it's more of a suggestion that you keep it anonymous.
Okay.
Or try to.
Yeah.
We're still a small department.
Got it. But then, how does that work if you can't retaliate against the person and they're anonymous? So you can still fire someone, but because you don't know who they are. I think you have to say, otherwise, there's that retaliation. You could be anonymous, but then you're not protected against retaliation, I guess, would be the clause. That was my only thought.
And it would probably be up to the reporting party.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
If they don't want to be protected against retaliation, they could do that. Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
I could see a lot of different scenarios in that.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
And it ultimately, I think, would be left up to the person reporting.
right.
Right.
Yeah.
I think there's plenty of examples of whistleblower policies with companies, agencies. I think
Yeah.
I don't think it would be that heavy of a lift to find something
No.
that would be
Right.
appropriate, or something that other districts are using. and then have that brought forth as a draft
Perfect.
for review, comment, and possible approvals.
Perfect. Yeah. And then just based on what Nedick was talking about, I would like to motion to reconsider the PTO motion that I made, which means talk about it again and vote. I want to rescind it and table it. I want to make a motion to table it, but I first have to make a motion to reconsider the motion I made about PTO.
So
Clear?
could we
As much?
do it in
Second.
one motion is to do both? Because PTO there's two, right? We did both.
Oh, yes. Oh, sorry.
Could we make
yeah.
one to?
I'll make a motion to reconsider both PTO motions.
To strike them and then reconsider, right? Because they were
wanna make
already
it
voted on and approved.
right. So yeah, to rescind them. I don't have my Robert's rules on me, so
Yeah.
I can make a motion
too.
to rescind them if that's okay with you guys, instead of reconsider and then rescind. Whatever you would prefer.
I think we understand the intent, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty clear. So
I'll make a motion to
Okay.
rescind the PTO motions.
Do we have, yeah, it has to go to a vote because once it's voted on, it isn't your baby anymore.
Yeah.
You know, it becomes whole groups. So
In order to table it, to give us time to
for further discussion.
further discussion, exactly.
Okay. Do we have a second? I'll second. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay.
So the final version that's going to be put out is going to have just the item 3, which deals with the holiday. Okay. And then another draft version is going to come back in June with this, with a whistleblower portion, and then some discussion for the.
About PTO.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay.
Okay. So. Okay, so we're at number 4, if I'm not mistaken, which is the Amendment 1 to amend
Yep.
and restated fire
Yes.
service automatic aid mutual aid agreement between Platte River Power Authority and Wellington Fire Protection District.
And I apologize, for some reason when the page numbers on here didn't print. So we're going to be at as soon as on page 50 or 49 where the handbook ended. The next thing we'll start with the quick staff report. So just a quick overview there. We have a standing fire service automatic mutual aid agreement with Platte River Power Authority. We were invited to participate in some electric vehicle training up with them recently. And they had brought in an outside instructor. We were not able to participate in the hands-on training portion because we didn't have some things in place related to insurance policies and things that they wanted to see. So that prompted a discussion about, and previously, years past, as most have been here for a while, know that we've done academies up there and that kind of thing. So in that discussion about, okay, can we come up doing training, what's it take to happen, got in with their corporate side, and what came from that was evidence of insurance waiver, and then this proposed amendment which deals directly just with the training and the ability to do training. So we're not looking to do any change to the agreement in place. But it would be another required board action to sign this. So that's within the authority of the board to deal with this amendment. And really what it does is it deals with us being allowed to use the training. So the quick questions that came up on that were related to some of the things regarding the insurance requirements, the levels of insurance. I checked with our insurance agent, and our levels as to what they say in here are covered. The questions about some of the things with subrogation, some of the rights and things that came, he had the feeling that that was probably all good, but he needed to see their evidence of insurance request. So that came through to them to look through that. Then the other thing came with to bring this to the board would be legal any concerns from district's legal counsel as far as signing that. The only thing that our district legal counsel brought up was that he felt like the insurance requirements were probably more than most of his clients cared. I shared with him that our insurance agent feels like everything is covered from that side of it. And then just a concern if we have something that's lower than limits, but we cause damage, understanding that we would have to pay for that ourselves if we're not going to run it through insurance. So making sure we understand that. And then the last thing being that that the way that the agreement is written is that they have the right to cancel at any time. And without notice type of thing. So just making sure that that wasn't a concern for us. If it was that we were trying to schedule an academy and hold an academy, that might be a concern where he suggested maybe we want 30 days or some kind of a notice. But really what we're looking at is opportunities to participate in those kind of hands-on training, or if other opportunities come where we can go up there and do some training, that this is in place. So he really didn't see any other issues that would potentially arise that might be interruptions in service or interruptions in planting. So we would just know that if something came up and we couldn't use their facility, then that training would be canceled. So that was really it. So the ask really that we're looking for would be for they utilized DocuSign and that kind of service. So if with a decision, if the board is going to approve that, then they just need to know who the approver is from our agency so that they can work through this. We're still working through some of the last checks and balances with their certificate of insurance with our insurance to make sure that that all the actual, literally the boxes are checked that are supposed to be checked on that. So our agent has given no cause for concern with us having to have additional insurance or doing anything else from that in the liability perspective. So.
The only thing I noticed is, like when you get a rent a house, you do a walkthrough first to make sure that you're not charged for any damages that are already existing. I would like to see something like that in there so that, yes, we'll pay for any damages that we do, but we don't want to be charged for something we didn't do. Is there, I have language prepared if you'd like it, but about having a walkthrough.
So what we could do would be, the way that this was formatted from them is, if we have suggested changes, then we would submit those to them for their review for acceptance. So we don't have to, again, board doesn't have to take action. The decision could be to include some of those suggested changes in the document that they gave us, to submit that back to see if they would accept those changes. And I know that from a process piece, we could also add that from a procedural piece that we do and have in place anytime that we would potentially use that. Could our procedural piece, if it falls back that there's not a walkthrough or something done. So.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to protect this between sessions.
Yeah.
If we were to table this, would it?
Well, so it's a discussion and then possible action. So I think if the board wishes, the action coming out of it could be to the suggested language, return that to them with the other suggested additional language for their consideration on their side. There could be we don't have anything immediately scheduled right now that we're trying to get this done.
And it's just because we're in this process of changing.
Yep.
And I think that would be best.
And And then this is the first time the board's had a chance to actually look at the agreement. Part of it was making sure that, again, that the honest part is, as things have changed, one, it's pretty far up there for us to go. So
Oh, yeah.
if we wouldn't probably see days where we took both of the companies up there to go do training because we'd be far out of our response area. So it is looking at opportunities for us really to be able to partner with them and do some more things like that electrical feed training, or if they're doing training for their staff, that we can insert some of our people in there to do that, or maybe send a company up to participate in some level of training. So
Yeah.
we don't have anything hard scheduled on the books that we're trying to get it done, but it would be nice to continue to move it forward and have that as an opportunity, knowing that at least as it stands right now, it's a no-cost thing to us, and I think very low risk part to us.
So we would have to talk to them and see if they're willing to agree, because it has to be agreement.
Yes, so this came from their legal side of their group, their contracts management type of people. So we would just put some suggested language is what they asked for, and then send it back to them with that. So
Here's some suggested language, if you'd like to look. But
And again, I think it would be less confusing down the line if the whole process with it is started and then worked with the same signatures and yeah.
oh, I see. Yeah.
You know, it's one of those
With the new board
in this
is what
situation.
you're saying.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's why I would motion to table
To June.
any further to do with this until
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't
June.
give you one.
Yeah.
Grab that here.
can I steal that, or you do that one? I'll take this.
Until June.
Apologize.
So with the board's permission, what I will do is I can add this into the draft version and then either bring it back to the board to see, or I would send it to PRP. I just need direction on which way we'd like to go. Do you want to see this embedded into the version to review, discuss, or just embed this into that, send it to PRPA, and see what they say? I can come back in June with what their response would be to adding this into that.
I would like to know their response.
Okay.
Yeah, we just will start to walk ball.
Yeah. Okay.
Are we the only department that's going through this right now with them? Are we the only ones that's going to have an agreement contract with them?
I don't know that they have a mutual aid agreement already in place with anybody else.
Yeah.
I don't believe they do. It's it's unique because, as we know, it's owned by a couple different municipalities, but PFA has a training center that they use.
Sure.
They don't too often. I can't think of time that they would go up and do that. And I think even in the side discussion, Pat and Pettit could talk about it. I think live fire is one of the things that's off the plate up at PRPA anyway. So that just we're looking at more the lower risk, not necessarily that it's not. Other training and ladder training and high elevated things are not necessarily low risk, but that type of thing. So live fire training does take a lot more people in place with given certifications to fill command and ICS roles that have designated levels of training to be able to do something like that. So I think that just the staff that they have wouldn't have enough people to put that in place. So that's one thing that's off the table. So our efforts of trying to get our people through annual live fire training, all my efforts and focus with the relationship we have with with PFA. Geographically, it's a bit closer than where that is. So again, I think the emphasis is on some of those opportunities for training and some of those things where they are doing training up there that we might be able to participate in. So.
Okay. So, do I have a second to my motion to table this till June?
I'll second 21st.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Table in person. I'm gonna. Okay. Let me see. Okay. So, not turn whenever you're ready.
Okay. Okay, how about discussion item for the town of Wellington water billing at Station 16?
Okay, so following the the amendment, you'll see a short staff report. So there was some discussion started a little bit before December, just kind of some off discussions with that. But formally, the Patty Garcia, the town administrator, reached out to me and asking about why, if there was any reason why we wouldn't be paying a water bill for this location. So talked to a few other people that have been here for a while, asked them about that, and historically kind of gave an idea that at one time before this building was added onto, there was a water fill station that was the same as what's on 6th Street now, that people would come through, fill their water tanks, and it was tied into the same water system and same water meter. During that, so throughout that time and then going forward, there was never a water bill charged for that. And so we looked through records, tried to find records of any more written formal agreement. The town did the same thing on their side, and whether there was actually a formal agreement to waive that, nothing was found. Nothing was located. So what that's brought forward then is the new water rates went into effect on January 1st. And so attached in the packet, you'll see what the commercial water rates are for our 2-inch meter, along with the base rate and the flow for our sewage. And then additionally in the packet, the town has been reading the meter, so they gave me water meter readings for, I think it's the last 18 months, 21 months, I don't know if I said that exact, 22 months. And then we looked at and also sort of did a calculation on what the first quarter of 2023 would be with all the rates total. So the base rate for the tap, the water usage rate, the base rate for the sewer, and the usage rate for that, and then what we've been paying right now is just the storm drainage fee. So that's what we've been paying monthly on that. So an estimate of going forward, basically, if we kind of took the average of the 22 months, the number will be lower, but the latter few months have been a little bit higher. So we're looking at somewhere between $4,200 to $5,500 a year total for the water for this location. And so kind of on a rough estimate for the rest of the year is about $2,900. We expect to see a bill July 1st, which would be for June 1st. So the only other caveat is there basically be an opportunity for the board to make a request to meet with the board of trustees and present a case why we feel that we shouldn't be paying for water. And I think I know we pay for water at the other station. We pay for all our other utilities. I'm not sure what those grounds would be. I think if we were looking to do that,
I think it'd be a tough push.
Yeah. So yeah, I think really it's a place where no action necessarily, other than it's time to start budgeting that in and planning for that as we go forward. So
when are they going to want that then?
So June, as it stands, they'll be doing the readings in June, and we would get our first bill for that in July. So for the June usage, and they explained that we'd be bringing it to this meeting, and if there was any other action that came out of it, or a request to meet with the board of trustees if we had anything that that did come up or that we did find or anything else that we could present that would do that.
So you're saying that the bulk water station is no longer here?
No, it's not. So yeah,
It's been gone a long time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Been getting-
So as the buildings got added onto at some point. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah. So that's the great news.
Thank you for the information.
Yes. Good work.
Pay the bill.
Okay. So we took care of that. The last discussion item is forming a merit board that meets quarterly.
Well, I'm not so sure that, we had a good discussion about that, and I'm not so sure that isn't something you might want to wait, because that has some long-standing effects, and although we talked extensively about that, sounds pretty good, but I think it may be better served with with your new board in place, personally.
Okay. Yeah.
It's up to you.
No,
so.
that's fine. That's fine.
Yes, we already decided that we don't need to formally table it, but if you could just put that on June's agenda. Or whenever you would like
Yeah,
to put it on
and
the
we-
agenda.
We need a motion to table it, or?
Yeah, it was just a discussion.
This discussion.
Okay? Next up is other, and Director Sarno would like to present some comments to the board.
Yeah, I would. Thank you. Thanks for taking the time to let me do this. I'd like to read a letter that's going to be, indulge me. I apologize up front for the length of it, but I'd like to thank all the past and present board members that I've had the privilege to serve with. It really has been an amazing experience for me to continue serving the public. And I'd also like to thank and show my appreciation to Mike, because I think he's done an amazing job and a great chief to work with. After 32 years of service to this department, I will leave very proud of every single thing that I had a part in, and with my head high, in spite of what has been implied and written about me in the last few weeks. And I'd like to take a few minutes to be able to clear my name based on several facts. I had several people suggest to me that I should have been more aggressive and forthright during the candidate forum. I chose to take the high road. I'm only stating facts to point to a culture of an organization that attacked me, to really let people know both sides. Every single reference that I have made and will make as it is refers to a union is based on 100% personal experience. They're not opinions, they're not what I think, they're not what I hope. They're based on what I personally experienced being a member of Teamsters Union Local 7 in Denver a number of years ago. I found some things very interesting that were quite concerning, and I think a lot of people should know, and I even had some people ask me about it. Firstly, during the candidate forum, I found it very interesting that the pre-assigned attack dog for the union was not an employee, live in the district, or even have a vote. And people asked me why. I said you'd have to ask Doherty. Another very interesting fact, if people that were there, every single question that was asked during that forum, and let me be very clear, nothing that I'm going to say is an attack on the two candidates and the two new members. But every single question that was pre-written or asked live afterwards were directed at all three candidates, until Doherty got up and read his prepared questions or statement, which was actually an attack from his phone. He came to a conclusion and accused me, since I was the treasurer, that all misappropriations that had happened during the district was solely my fault and responsibility. What he failed to communicate in a very important fact. When I grew up, I was taught that when somebody purposely leaves out a known fact that may hurt or not help your cause, that's the same as lying. And I'm going to correct it now. I was accused, since I was the treasurer, that I was solely responsible for all misappropriations. If you were to read the special district handbook and be able to see the definitions of the officers, he would be able to see that every single member of a district board has equal responsibility and accountability, with no one member having any more than the other except the president, which is responsible for the meetings. To say that I was solely responsible was an outright attack and a lie, period. Now, was his motivation a personal grievance or financial potential gain? I don't know. You'd have to ask him. Another very interesting point that's very concerning is Doherty claimed to be an accountant I'm not an accountant, nor any of the board members at that time were accountants. None of us claimed to be experts. We were fed information by our chief. It happened to be incorrect. We filed audits every year with the state to meet our legal obligations. And I'll be damned if I'm going to get blamed for somebody else's mistakes, and I will accept the responsibility that I have coming for me, which is more than what some people did. Doherty, as claiming to be an accountant, was also a senior officer. When raises and promotions were being handed out like candy on Halloween night, nobody complained, nobody showed the passion and concern like they showed in the last few weeks. Why was that? There was no serious talk of a union. Everybody was happy. Everybody was real pleased. Then Santa Claus left, and something needed to become to fill the money vacuum. And here came the union. I talked to some people about this ahead of time, about what to expect. And I was right, sadly. The personal attacks, the very troublesome phone calls that I received, the social media postings that accused me of unbelievable acts were unbelievable. I didn't see them. I had neighbors and friends bring it to my attention. I don't get involved in that crap for that very reason. We hear about elections today of what happens, and by God, it sounds like these big-time politics have come to Little Wellington. You'd think I was running for a U.S. Senate for what I was being accused of. And I absolutely will not stand for my name and my reputation being muddied for some self-interest groups. I shamefully admit that I used some of those same tactics back as a union member. At that time we called it a strike. Now they call it a labor dispute. I can very vividly remember during negotiations, because I was a union steward, of having the local Teamsters from New Jersey come out and tell us how to do this. Those same tactics that happened in 1977, before all these people were probably born, were used again today. Shame on them, and shame on all the people that didn't know about it. Shortly after that, however, the contract was signed, went back to work. In a very short period of time, I couldn't deal with it. My conscience really bothered me. So I quit. I cut the puppet strings because I didn't like the way I treated people and wanted to think and act as an individual and be rewarded for it, which is a culture that is non-existent in a union. Trust me. We talked about that, so keep that in mind. Hence the name collective bargaining. I'd love to get a question from some of the firefighters, again, not the new board members, I'm not attacking them, or any that supported them. I'd love to know how any of them would feel if their dad, their grandfather, their uncle, their cousin, their brother were attacked like I would. How would they feel about this organization? Not something I would want to be proud of or even associated with, but that's up to them. That's a question they would have to answer. But turn on them, and trust me, you will find out. You will find out. I had heard that there was a quote-unquote fact sheet around the fire stations with all this same rhetoric about me. I must say I'm rather disappointed, because there are some firefighters that I've known for 10 or over 15 years that wouldn't have come to me and said, I've known you for a while, this doesn't sound like you, can I ask you a question? And if people that know, I have been preaching for years and years and years that this is an open door, if anybody ever wants to call me, come and ask me. Nobody chose to do that. So with the chief's knowledge, I went to the station and talked to 2 crews. There were 4 members, 5 here, but 1 was busy. I told them that I had chief's approval and I just wanted to clear up some things. I essentially told them the background of what I'm saying. I got done. I thanked them for their time, asked them if they had any questions. One new member had a question, I addressed it, and I left. On Tuesday, I briefly had a discussion with a member, and that came up. And I was accused that that was very inappropriate of me to go ask for votes of the crew members. No way, shape, or form did I ask anybody or even hint that I was asking for their vote. Yet again, another let's find this other stone to throw. But you know, after I typed up this letter, I got to thinking, what if I did go and ask for a vote? What the hell would be wrong with that? Isn't that what America is? Isn't that what they were doing, is asking for votes? But yet it was inappropriate for me because I'm the bad guy and I was targeted to be able to get the hell out. I was the one that was holding them up. I will guarantee you, I will bet everything I own, that had I been for this union, I would be being sworn in next month and not sworn at, like I was. The Coloradoan ran a very interesting article that came out a day or two before the election. And again, I want to emphasize this is not an attack on the two new members. It's more the motivation behind getting them in there. The very last sentence of this article talked and stated that the reason the union voted for these two individuals was their vast experience in business and budgets. Well, if the union truly cares about the financial stability and what's going on with this fire district, wouldn't you think they have wanted to get candidates that, number one, came to a meeting and knew the difference between running a business and a special district, and number two, knew the difference between an annual budget and a monthly financial? This came up in the forum. So it's very obvious that the motivation behind was not to get people that, and they very well may have the best interests at heart. I'm not condemning them. But the motivation was to get two people to carry the water to vote. Period. People that know me and have known me for a short period of time, a long period of time, they know the kind of person I am, what I've done for the community, and what I will continue to do for the community. They're the people that count. The other people that know that all this garbage that's put out there was just that, those others, and they just don't matter. I received this, I got a really cute and really nice flyer out in my front porch. I don't know when. You know, really nice. Costs a lot of money, I'm sure. Hell of a lot more money than I spent. And there's a couple things that came to my mind when I saw this. Number one, they knew it was a David and Goliath. There's no way in God's green earth that I could match their financial resources and personnel. You know, I couldn't go out and hold signs all over the place and do this kind of stuff. I just went out and talked to my friends and neighbors and people in town. Secondly, the thing that really did get to me, honestly, was for people that know where I live, nobody else got this. And this truly was a in-your-face kind of thing. I'd like to know the person that did it and those that put that person up to it. The real motivation to this. Is it, I mean, my point is this really necessary? Was it really necessary? And that, again, points to the tactics of the organization that is behind this entire process. In closing, I know damn well that when I look in the mirror every single time, I know exactly what I see. I know what I've done, I know who I am, and I can be extremely proud of that. What Doherty and the others see when they look in the mirror, I can't tell you, but I'm just thank God every day that I don't see the same image. thank you for the time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Steve. Any other board member have any other?
I would like to add to the agenda in June, if it's okay with you guys, a discussion about a board retreat, dates and times for the new board to do a board retreat. That's it, thank you.
You're welcome. David, you have any other?
No.
Okay. Neither do I. Chief, do you have any other?
Nothing else in other.
Okay.
Jump down to.
Mhm.
Well, maybe appropriate to talk here just about the next board meeting.
Mhm.
I think we're going to be okay with board in place. So we will have we have the pension board before the regular board meeting is how we typically do those. We will have a vice president that can run and start and run the meeting because the pension board will happen first with the two pension board meetings. So as long as you'll be here to run that meeting, then we can do the pension board and run that meeting first, and then in the next and then the regular board meeting, then we'll seat the officers and do the selection of positions. Okay. So otherwise, we might want to flip them. We did it last time, but only because we didn't have those ability to do that. So
Right.
okay.
Okay. Calendar items.
I'll just touch on it again. Just a reminder: Saturday the 17th at Station 7. Sorry, Saturday the 13th at Station 17. We're going to do the wildland preparedness open house. So 10 to 12. Again, we have a few other agencies that will be there with us. Handout was pretty well attended last time, so looking forward to doing it again. We did purposely move it a weekend after the National Wildfire Preparedness Day because of just the amount of agencies that do it all on the same day and trying to get our associated partners to be able to participate. So even on this Saturday, there's at least 4 other agencies that are doing theirs this Saturday too. That so lead us, but pretty far, but they're coming. So that's the only thing I have. Thank you.
So our next board meeting, remind me, has it been rescheduled already?
Yes.
Yeah, we
yes.
did that last
This
time.
is the So we did it a few months ago, but and then everything has been updated properly on all the calendars and all the other postings. But it is June 21st. So it'll be the 3rd, 4 o'clock start, and it's the pension board first.
Correct. Everybody got that? A motion that we adjourn this meeting. Yeah, I'm gonna get all again. That we adjourn this meeting at 17:52.
Oh, second.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all.
All right, Ken. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken, for your service.
Yeah.